The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Wednesday performed the groundbreaking ceremony of the $100 million Lagos Film City situated on a 100-hectare land area at the Ikosi area of the Ekpe local government area of the state. Speaking during the ceremony, Sanwo-Olu said the project will be executed on the private-public partnership model, would be a creative hub and serve as a catalyst for talent discovery and storytelling excellence.
Conduct the formal groundbreaking ceremony of the Lagos Film City here in Ejiri, Second Division of Lagos State. To the glory of God, this site in 2 years, in 2.5 years, will have become a site that will come and do, by the grace of God, the first commissioning of a set of infrastructure and buildings that will be here for the Lagos Film City.
Show, as we take a look at this ingenious project and its economic importance, is Toke Benson-Awoyinka, Lagos State Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture. Good morning, Mrs. Benson-Awoyinka, and thank you very much for joining us on the morning show
Thank
today.
you for having me.
Excellent. Well, first of all, congratulations to you and the Lagos State government, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, for this groundbreaking ceremony. However, it is a formal groundbreaking ceremony, so the big question would be, what next? A number of people are excited about the prospects of this project. What next for Lagos State and the Film City?
I'm glad you're asking what next, and I'm glad that it's in your industry as well. So I guess we're getting the kudos from you because we're actually doing something that a lot of young people want to see and what the government intervention is in that area. So what next? We're going to go into construction, but prior to construction, we're also going to have a lot of movie producers, movie people, companies going there to see what exactly they can do. So like we said, it's a PPP project. It means that it's going to be private sector funded, and the list is endless because we want a lot of people who can actually come in there. We don't want it to be saddled by government bureaucracy and say, oh, we need to do budgetary this, budgetary that, but we want the private sector people who actually would share that vision with us and look into investing in that place. So what next is to dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure that everybody comes on board who should be on board, and then we start the project. We start the development of that area. You should visit. It's a beautiful place.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, congratulations to you, and congratulations to the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Sanwo-Olu himself. But the question that is often asked, I've worked on projects both locally and internationally, and it's always a case of three things: the cost, which is your budget, the scope of the work, and the timeline. So let me ask you those three things. In terms of what has been budgeted, if you dig the ground and say, we're ready, how much is in the budget of Lagos State starting from now that will go into making that place an environment that creates the enablement for the private sector to come in? And what is your timeline? Do you have specific milestones that people can actually say, in the next 3 months, this is what is expected. In the next 1 year, this is what is expected. I heard the governor saying there that 2 to 2.5 years, we'll see something happening. What are the milestones that makes it possible for us to know that in that exact time we'll see results?
So right now, like I said, we're crossing our I's and dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We're at the stage where we're bringing in the private sector people to come in. We're at the stage where we're signing documents and saying this is what we want to do. We have some investors who are already on ground. Del York Studios, we've worked in the past with Del York Studios, Ebony Life, and Ogidi Studios. So we have some companies already leading that conversation. The ones leading the conversation are going to come up with an academy as well, where students can go for training, because Mr. Governor had been doing a lot in training. So we want to put in an academy. And you know what that would do is going to bring life to that area. So we have a master plan we're working on, and we're saying on this master plan, we have hotels, hospitality, we have studios, we have academies, like I said, we have production centers. So we're going to work based on the master plan. It's going to be a convergence of so many people with so many ideas, but the most important thing is that we put down the master plan, and then everybody comes in to fit the jigsaw puzzle and say, this is the part of the puzzle that I want to see. But the first, one of the first people we're talking to, they have promised that they're going to be done or completed with their project by the third quarter of 2026, which is why the governor gave the 2.5-year timeline. So the timelines are there. People are going to, we expect private equity to come in there. Government is going to go in there, put in the infrastructure, whereby we're going to create access roads to the place so you can actually access the place easily. Right now there are roads there, but for us to dualize the road and make sure that the Ekpe community also join force with whoever is coming to develop. So those are the timelines that we have right now. We have a completion for the third quarter of 2026, but that's not to say that that's the only thing that will go on there, because those are the first set of investors that we have that have committed to it.
But what about the money? I have not heard you mention what is Lagos State government putting in terms of budget so far?
We have put in 100 hectares, so unless you want us to cost the 100 hectares of land as well.
Just the land?
No, we've put in the 100 hectares. We're going to put in infrastructure.
Yes.
Infrastructure, I'm sure, would go for at least 10 to 20 billion that we would put in there. So we're looking, this is the time for our budget, and we're trying to work on those numbers right now.
Okay, so, I mean, a lot of good stuff coming out there, but let's talk about sustainability, going forward. So 3, 4, 5 years down the line, we have first bit of infrastructure comes there. How is it sustained in partnership with community ownership, the community owning it, taking care of this infrastructure and all of that, and see how we can scale?
So the Ekpe community has been gracious. The Ejiri community specifically has been gracious. The land belongs to them. We have come in there, we've spoken to them. They've actually accepted and owned that project. In my speech on that day and in the governor's speech on that day, we told the Ejiri community that this is yours. This is going to open up this area for you, and we want you to own that thing. So part of the things that the community is going to benefit, for instance, is the governor got in there and we went into a school. Of course, these places are a bit remote from town, and you don't actually see a lot of things that go in those remote areas. The first thing he promised them is that we're going to build the school to fit modern standard, because he was welcomed by a number of students when he got there. They didn't know the governor was coming, so they were surprised when he went in there to see them. So we're going to build those schools. The community is going to be partakers of whatever we put in there, as in the SPV that will work on that thing. The community is going to own a percentage of it. The community is going to create the labor or provide the labor. So they're going to actually, we've told them you have to embrace it. When development comes to your area, if you're hostile, development doesn't stay in your area. But when development comes in there and you adopt it, embrace it, and own it, then it becomes yours. Because we've told them the commerce that is coming in here, the things that would happen here, the things that you would never have expected. And I remember the Oba of Ejiri mentioned that the last time something like this came into that community was when the white men came in those days. And they sang, if you know, there's a song by Ebenezer Obey where he said, Boko kon origiri, egbe bo, which means that if one transporter doesn't come to Ejiri, 1,000 of them will come to Ejiri. Apparently, Ejiri in those days used to be a major transport hub, a major commerce hub. But since then, it's gone into a sleepy mood. So this is also a reawakening that the king and the people are excited about. So I think it's we're in a good place with them.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds really exciting for the people of the Ejiri people, for the Ekpe people, and for Lagos as a whole, because I believe that you draw labor from all parts of the city. So in terms of job creation, opportunities are vast. But let me ask you, in terms of engagement with the primary stakeholders or beneficiaries, the creative sector in Lagos State, how much engagement? I know you've talked about the lead partners, Ogidi Studios, Del York, and Ebony Life.
Yes.
Was there, and I saw a few, people from the industry at that groundbreaking ceremony. But in terms of engagement, what's the buy-in because these are going to be the ones the people are going to occupy, the producers, your executive producers are going to come in to invest, shoot their movies there. Have you consulted with them? What's the reception like for them? How do you hope to engage them further? And then taking the conversation a bit further, I'd like you to also speak about the plans for the creative economy here in Lagos State. Governor Sanwo-Olu has talked about the number of times, the huge potential in that sector. How do you hope to maximize that beyond Lagos Film City?
So in the past, we've touched on the softer side of the creative industry. The governor had done grants to producers. Initially, they were supposed to be loans. I think it came out of COVID when there was a downtime in all industries. So the commissioner then approached the governor and said, Mr. Governor, we need to sit and have a rebirth of this industry and see how best we can help and assist these people. So there was a grant of ₦1 billion. It wasn't all drawn down, but there was a criteria that was set, and each person could go up to as much as ₦40 million to help in whatever they were doing at that time. Well, that was the time that we also had the collaborations that started with Ebony Life, Ogidi, and Del York. We gave them trainings to train people in the industry to also make sure that we have enough opportunities for them by the time the end of the training was over. And then Mr. Governor said, okay, we've done all this. We need to go leave the softer side of it and get into the harder side, something that is more tangible. And that's when he said, okay, we already had plans for a film city, which was in the transition document from 2019, when they set up the transition document, when Mr. Governor was governor-elect at that time. So he said, this is the time we need to do it. If we don't do it now, we would not do it again. So let's go in there, let's break ground, let's get the industry practitioners, because we had been working with them. I think the grant process had a committee of industry practitioners. There's nothing that we've actually done in this industry that we have not done with the practitioners. Nothing has been done in isolation. And I always tell people, government is not a business. Government is not a businessman. What government should do is create an enabling environment for you to thrive in any area of business that you're doing. So they are on board with us. Like you said, you saw some of them there. And we wanted their buy-in. We want them to patronize that place. We want them to invest in that place. So it would be better for us to have a film city where we have a convergence of practitioners and people who believe in this project than for us to have silos in all places. When there's a convergence on 100 hectares, land is the next best thing that can happen to you in Lagos. There's no land in Lagos. Land is the wealth of Lagos. So for that community to put down that 100 hectares, I think we need to give them, kudos for doing that. So moving forward, we're going to make sure we continue that engagement. We're going to make sure we get international investors. We have some American investors on ground already. We're going to make sure that we open it up to more investors. 100 hectares is a lot of land. And I must tell you, I would continue to go on and on about the landscape. It is a beautiful place. It is somewhere you would want to stay and shoot that movie and probably say, okay, I can spend every other weekend here.
Well, it's still in your head and all that. I will definitely join you in giving kudos to the governor, because Moabudu is a friend. Lionel Sidahosa of Del York is a friend. And they confirmed that, yes, the governor is giving them massive support. And we see the quality of young people that have been trained by these individuals through their institutions that they put together. But I'm still on and on and on about this issue of your timeline and the scope of the project, and of course, how much is going to be spent. Can we see a master plan? Our residents will be delighted to help to analyze. This is the master plan. Where is the master plan? Where can people see it? Because you know what your master plan looks like. I don't.
Yes, I know.
And we would like to know. Can we have that master plan, and when?
I could come back later at a later time to discuss the master plan. We would show the master plan. It's important for people in the industry to also see the master plan, because we want it to be a plug and play thing. So if you don't see or know the master plan, you would not be able to plug and play. So once that is finalized, we would come in here, we'll discuss it.
Oh, it's still in the works?
It's still in the works, yes. Okay. So we'll show it to you. But first things first is for government to put that infrastructure in there that would actually make it a conducive environment for all to be in.
Okay, so Another angle I'd love to talk about is the environment and the climatic angle. Because the 100 hectares of real bushland is an ecosystem now that you're disrupting. You're going into there. What is going to be the future plan as regards still preserving some essence of that ecosystem going forward? Because there are animals, there are arboreals, there are, life, flora and fauna, life that used to be there before that will be, cleared away for all of this. How are you doing to still, because if you want to seek funding internationally, the climatic, ecological conditions are very important for funding. In fact, if you don't pass that test, then nothing happens. So, how do we intend to still, keep a little bit of that?
I can say that is not my area of expertise. I'm a lawyer, but I can only try to defend that. So I remember that the Oba of Ejiri said, so we're going to give you 100 hectares, but we still have like 120 hectares. So I expect those animal migration or that animal migration would migrate into the... But there's some parts of that place that would remain, which is the mangrove going into the lagoon. I expect that would remain because that's part of the beauty of that environment.
Okay.
I also love nature, and that's why I've been raving and ranting about what the beautiful scenery of Ejiri is. So I'm not sure that we would allow anybody to disrupt part of that place. There would be parts of it that would be maintained, the lagoon front. So it's for us to make sure that there's a proper jetty there where people can actually embark and disembark and not disrupt I think the place is just beautiful, and I don't think anybody should allow some parts of that place to be disrupted. I think.
How about you talk about just your hair strip, coming in there?
Yes. Actually, the new airport is right behind it.
Oh.
On the Ekpe Express Road. So it's the proximity of that place is just something to behold. So you can get there by air, you can get there by the lagoon, and going on our lagoon is the next thing that people should actually look at. Some people actually came to the venue.
So what are you doing as regards tourism, water transport?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Because we have a lot of potential, but I don't think
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Rufai. So 2 weeks ago, I went to Badagry to visit Badagry. I mean, I know Badagry. I'm from here. I grew up here. But I never went to Badagry with the sense of tourism in mind. And I visited Badagry last week, Sunday, and I must also say that we have the fourth door return on Saturday. We have Marcus Garvey Jr. and some other people. We're working with Honorable Abike Dabiri. So we're bringing in some Americans on Saturday. They're here. They came in last night. We're going to rename them. They're now going to be Shakiru, Toke, Rufai, and Bola. So we're doing that on Saturday. We're taking them to the door of the point of no return. I actually visited that place on Sunday, and I had goosebumps all over me. I put those chains around my neck, and I saw, I was deep in thought because I thought, some of our forefathers actually went through this. I couldn't lift my head with those chains on my neck. And they walked fields doing this, they walked miles doing this. But let's go back to water tourism. So one of the plans we have, this administration has, is to create tours of Lagos. Like I said, some people went to Ejiri by boat on that day. We go to Badagry by boat. I would go to Badagry by boat tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. Tomorrow for this ceremony. So one of the plans we have is for us to be able to do tours around Lagos when people come in. The Czech ambassador and the head of mission came in to my office last week, and they said, we want to see Lagos. The next best thing I thought to do was to put them on that boat and take them to Badagry. To see what we have. There's so much we can still do to develop water tourism. So the first thing we're going to start is make sure that people like you and I can actually say, we want to go spend the weekend in Badagry, in Ejiri, in Ikorodu, in Ekpe, and you can go by boat. And it's just like 45 minutes on the lagoon. It's refreshing. And we're just going to create the ecosystem around it.
How about the regattas?
Okay.
The regalia?
The regattas, the boat regattas.
So that's coming up in April.
Oh, good.
Yes, we're going to have the boat regatta in April. We hope that we're going to do the Fanti as well. If you know about the Fanti, many years ago in Lagos, the Brazilian quarters, every Easter would have that cultural parade.
We eat free John.
Yeah, and we eat free John. So all that is coming back. We eat free John every year. So when you talk to people who are not really from here, they ask you what's free John, and we say, don't worry, wait till Easter and you would eat free John.
So when you talk about tourism, and I'm so glad you speak so passionately about it, because Lagos has so much potential, which I must say hasn't been largely fully tapped. Yes, it hasn't. Now, you talked about investment and attracting international investment to the Lagos Film City. However, one thing we must talk about is that if investors would come, there has to be incentives.
Yes.
There has to be, you talk about providing an enabling environment. When we look at Lagos State, one of the major complaints that business owners have, especially in the tourism sector, is multiple taxation. How would you deal with that? Because I wouldn't want to come in to a largely unorganized system, especially with regards to taxes, where one person can show up and say, I'm here to collect money on behalf of an agency that doesn't really exist. How are you going to deal with that? Because it exists in the tourism industry, whether it's in event centers, whether it's on, for places of recreational spaces, restaurants. Lagos is quite notorious for multiple taxes. How are you going to handle that?
So really, international investors, businesses pay federal taxes. I think it's for us to make sure we partner with FIRS and say, we need to create moratorium periods for this business. We need to, for instance, the film city, people who are going to be invested, give us a moratorium 5-10 years for those businesses to stabilize and make sure that our own tax system, the LIRS, which is payee and or whatnot, we collect local taxes. Make sure that everything is harnessed and we don't have people going in there. Lagos State government can go ahead, like Rufai said, announce tax rebates and say, we're going to give you a rebate for this.
So you announce tax rebates? Because it's under your ministry.
Yes,
so the taxes I'm talking about,
we would work on,
like, you have those local government taxes,
like
there are multiple.
the last signage tax.
Yes, signage taxes. Yes. Sometimes someone will say parking tax. I've heard of that.
Yes.
You have your parking tax. So these are the ones that come to Lagos State, not the federal ones.
Yes.
So those are the ones I'm talking about.
So most of the time, agencies work separately. But I can tell you that, for instance, like the transport sector, we've harmonized the taxes and we say, we don't want you running after those buses. Let's harmonize it. Yes, the state can get whatever they're supposed to get. The local government can get whatever they're going to get. But if we all come together and say, we're harmonizing. For instance, in tourism now, in hospitality, we should have something called a liquor license. But the liquor license is under the local governments. People tend to say, what's the local government doing for me? But I keep telling them, if we don't create that enabling environment for you to thrive, you wouldn't be in business. You cannot be in business in Sambisa Forest because there's not that enabling environment for you to do it. So just give a little bit of credit to that government that has allowed your business to actually thrive and go on. So we would look into harmonizing, giving rebates, and also talking to the federal federal revenue service to say, these are investors. We need this business, or we need this environment and community to thrive, and we want to grow this business. The film city is something that we are committed to, and we hope that we know that we will get it done.
Excellent. You said it's 100 hectares of land.
100 hectares of land.
And that excellent 100 hectares of land, the question will be the access to that place. There's only one road that goes from Victoria Island and the rest of Lagos into that axis. That is the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. What's the government going to do over the next 2.5 years to invest in that road? Because that place is atrocious. The lives of people who live in that axis, to even get to Lakwe, not to mention to Ekpe, that place is horrible at the moment. So many people are complaining. Just yesterday we had a woman that was complaining about how many hours it takes from one area of that axis on the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway to just get to Victoria Island, or even to get as far as Chevron. That is number one. Then number two is, yes, it's fantastic when you get to around Ekpe axis. Are you going to expand it? Because if the access to a route is not good, it means I will not want to take my crew to that place.
So like you said, we have 3 access points. We have the lagoon, we have the airport right behind you, and then we have the road. I would just continue to say and plead with the people of Lagos to have patience with the state governor and the state government. I remember when Badagry Badagry Express Road was undergoing a construction like this too. It was horrendous. And now today the people will tell you we're good. That construction is ongoing on Ekpe Express Road. There's a contractor on site, and the contractor is doing everything that it can to make sure that that construction is fast enough for the people. But I can tell the people that there's light at the end of that tunnel. We are not relenting on making sure that people go back and forth their businesses and to their homes and schools. There's schools in that axis. I know.
Interject. My mother used to say certain things, which is that when you know the timeline for your patients, for example, if you're in trouble and you're told to stoop down and it's 5 minutes, you know that 5 minutes will go. Can we have a timeline on that axis, on that road?
I cannot give you a particular timeline right now because it's not in my ministry. Okay. But I'm sure that the signpost of the contractor would say, okay, it's just, but the difficulty there is that there's a contractor walking there and there's still vehicular movement. So there's bound to be disruptions.
The disruption is massive.
There's bound to be we are seeing it. We feel that pain.
Yes.
I go on that axis, so that's why I'm saying that. We just plead.
We'd like to say a very big thank you to you for your time. Thank you so much for the conversation.